Everybody knows the candidates, but here at CP24, we thought you should get to know the families. So we've put an invitation to all the candidates, the major candidates, to come on. And John Tory and his wife, Barbara Hackett, have accepted first, so they're here today. Welcome to the show. Everybody knows about you, so we'll just wait for a second before we get those questions.
Go ahead. It's more interesting.
So, Barbara, what's it like to be a candidate's wife?
It's a full-time job, and it has its fun parts, its trying parts, but all in all, it's quite an experience.
I'll bet it is. I mean, are you enjoying it?
Yes.
How about when there's news such as that poll this morning that shows that the opposition is gaining on your husband? How do you feel when you wake up and you see that?
Well, you just sort of understand that polls come and go, and I'm not just saying that because that's the pat political answer, but it actually happens to be true. We've seen a number of polls throughout the course of the campaign, and we just have to keep steady on the message and keep going because we know we have the right message and it's resonating with the voters.
How about when they take shots at your husband? I mean, some of them are probably fair, some of them are unfair, but that's the game of politics. But how do you feel?
That are fair.
I'm not going into that. I'm asking the questions.
I was going to say, other than the shots I'm making at my husband, I've got a few shots.
That's right. You are the ones that get at home. Yeah. That's why I don't react when we're on the debate.
So that's how you're so hardened as a candidate, is it?
That's right.
Because you get all these shots at home?
Absolutely. Which husband doesn't, and which husband doesn't deserve it?
It must feel, though. You must feel, for your husband, someone is out there and they're being so critical of him.
Well, it is tough. Nobody likes to hear that, and it's at times it's hard on the family too. But we know that it's just political posturing, and it's not true. And we just are running a positive campaign, and John's staying on message, and the message is really important.
You mentioned your family. You have an extensive family. I think that we have some pictures of this, and let's just because we want people to know not only about you but about your family. And let's just pull out those pictures, and perhaps you can identify who we have in this family photo. Barb?
Okay, so I guess that's at the Pride Parade. Oh, there's a bigger one up there.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's terrific. Yeah, that was at the Pride Parade, and we have...
Why don't we just go from left to right?
Yes, okay. Well, the guy on the left, the candidate, and then we have Jamie, who's married to our daughter Susan Tory in the bottom. We have John and Melanie, son John and his wife Melanie, and we have Christopher, and we have George and his girlfriend Alex, and I think that's all in the frame. And we have Nick Tory, John's nephew.
They all have facial hair.
Yes.
Not the women, but the men.
And you took that picture?
No, the men. I don't know who took that photo.
It was at Pride, though.
Yes, it was at
For
Pride.
sure. I don't wear those beads every day, Stephen.
No, I understand that. I mean, now let's just talk about, you also have grandchildren.
Yes, we do.
Who are not there.
We have 4 grandchildren. Yes, John and Melanie have 3, and our daughter Susan and her husband Jamie have a little baby girl. And
so do your children come to you when they hear or see people taking shots at your husband? Or are they inured to it now?
You know, they sort of know the lay of the land, and they're very positive too, and they sort of understand it, I think, the same way that I had just suggested. Yeah.
Let's talk about perhaps after this campaign, should your husband win, what do you foresee as your role as the wife of the mayor of the city of Toronto?
Well, first I'm going to take a big rest. And then, but right now we're just focusing on getting through the campaign, making sure that John's elected on October 27th. And then, quite frankly, after that, I'll just sort of sort out what's happening and see.
Are you interested in politics? In other words, for the policies and things. I mean, afterwards, are you going to be, in Toronto, as you well know, the spouses of the mayors don't have a long history of being involved, and yet in this country, spouses of premiers and prime ministers do have opinions, and increasingly they voice those opinions.
Oh,
will you be doing that?
Opinions.
Yeah.
Well, let's just talk about that. Will you be trying to steer some policy? Should your husband win?
You know, I'm not going to say whether I will or will not in a formal way. Certainly in an informal way, I would, and I do. But I'm going to sort that out after October 27th.
I won't tell you the
I'm not
issue,
going to answer
Stephen, but
you.
recently, I mean, I was sort of musing about talking about something, and she just said, you shouldn't talk about that. And it wasn't anything, you know, it was just an issue, an ordinary sort of issue, but she just said to me, you shouldn't talk about that right now because it's off the message, you know, that I'm talking about with Smart Track and with jobs and taxes, and she was right. You know, she was right.
So you took her advice, or did you learn the hard way?
No, I took her advice.
You took her advice.
Did, absolutely.
So, Barbara, tell us something about your politician husband that is not well known to the general public.
Careful.
Careful. I'll tell him the one about the dancing.
What?
He's not a good dancer.
Well, that's...
No, wait a second. That sounds like it's
deeply
news
wounded.
to you.
I've never heard that. No, I'm not. I have sort of basically 2 left feet, so that's perfectly true, and I'm proud of that.
Does he appreciate music?
He does.
Yeah, I love music.
He loves music.
Is he one of these guys that dances in his chair?
Sort of like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what else does he do for a fun time?
What does he do for fun? Well, after we watch all reels of the news and read all 4 or 5 papers.
That's sort of a slam.
What do we do?
And that's by 5 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, we enjoy. Probably. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not awake.
She says, you know what, Stephen, when I kiss her
time.
goodbye in the morning, which is normally at about 6 o'clock, she says that's her favorite moment of the day, not because I'm kissing her goodbye, but because she knows she has 2 more hours to sleep.
But you are famously an early riser.
Absolutely.
And so you have all those papers done by 5 or 6 o'clock?
No, by 7 I've read everything, and I've sort of heard newscasts and sort of generally know what's going on.
Do you make your own coffee or tea or whatever it is in the morning, or do you get up and have breakfast together?
You must be joking.
It was just a question.
She's sawing logs when I'm having coffee.
Okay, now let's just talk about back on family. When the press, you're here and we're talking about your family. Mm-hmm. Do you do that sort of willingly? Do you like the intrusion onto your family, or is there a real private part there? You say, that's far enough, LeDrew.
I don't think, that it's that private. I mean, before John was in politics, he had a fairly public profile type of career. So politics obviously delves a little bit more into that, and the kids are affected a little bit more, but I think they're fine with that, and we've had no complaints, and we've actually really had nothing that's so invasive. So no complaints.
One year we were celebrating Valentine's Day 4 days late, and we were in a restaurant. And this guy comes up and sort of says, I'd just like to discuss a few issues, and kind of pulls a chair up to the table.
Yeah.
And she let him do it. She didn't say anything, but then afterwards, when he went away, she said, who is that guy? And of course, I'm not even sure I knew. It was just some person.
But you said, and you had that discussion with no problem at all?
Well, we kept it very short, but sort of like, I don't think
first hour
after,
you said,
yeah, that's exactly. No, but Stephen, when people come up with an issue like that, it's some issue that's very important to them, and they will give you a good solid 30 minutes on it. And you're in public life, so you listen. But Barb didn't say anything until he left. She was very polite.
When you two met, it was how many years ago?
37.
When you were married? 37 years ago. Did you have any idea that he was going to be into public life? I mean, he was a lawyer or a law student at the time.
No, he was a law student.
Did you have any idea that your life was going to be like this, or were you just going to be the wife of a lawyer in your own career?
Well, not when we first met. I didn't have a clue who he was. I just thought he was this nerdy guy wearing a sports jacket to university.
What? She was engaged at the time too, and I mean, I noticed in the end.
So you broke this up?
Well, no, I won the girl. I mean, in the end of the day, I won it fair and square. But
this was a challenge to you. I mean, she was spoken for, taken.
Yes.
And you went in there and disturbed it.
Well, no, I didn't disturb anything. I just kind of, put myself forward, and it all turned out for the best.
Let's talk about, I mentioned careers. Now, you are not just a stay-at-home mom or wife or grandmother.
Mm-hmm. I've always had a career in finance and business, and about 20 years ago, I started my own business. I wanted to do something more entrepreneurial.
Which was?
I'm still doing that. So I'm building and renovating homes, residential construction.
Okay.
That's what I'm doing.
And you're still doing that?
I'm still doing that.
As the wife of the candidate?
Mm-hmm.
She's very good at it.
Yes.
I'm sure you are. Now let's just talk about this weekend coming up, Thanksgiving weekend. I know you're both big on family. How are you going to manage that with the campaign?
I think they're going to give John 3 hours off, and we're going to shove some turkey in his mouth and then send him back out again.
I do get a bit of time off to celebrate Thanksgiving, which is great. And we're having all the kids are coming, and it'll be just the usual in that sense. I mean, it'll be all together having the usual turkey dinner, which I love. I'm big on the stuffing myself, in particular.
And do you do the cooking at all?
No. Well, I mean, I help, but I'm not. I know you are legendary in the kitchen, among other places. But I do help a little bit, but I don't do much of the actual cooking.
How about the cleanup?
Oh, no, I'm very good at
He's
that.
good cleaner.
I actually like washing dishes, for example. I really like it. And I like doing it with somebody. You can sort of chat away while you wash the dishes. And then, you know, there's a lot of mess to be cleaned up out of a turkey roasting pan. And
I've read your CV. That's not one of the things that you put
Washing
down
dishes?
there. Washing dishes.
Well,
cleaning up after the turkeys.
I'll add that now that you've raised it.
Cleaning up after the turkeys?
Yes, well, I'll be going down to City Hall to clean up after the turkeys. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. How did I get dragged into that by you, typically?
No, you weren't dragged into it at all. So the two of you, you're just having a great time in this campaign. Are you looking forward to the 27th, Barbara?
Absolutely, yes.
And?
I mean, it's been a great campaign. I'm really proud of John, and I think he's going to make a great mayor.
On that note, we're going to take a break. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Good to see you both.
Thank you.
John Tory, he's on TV almost as much as Donald Trump, maybe even more than me. And that's not cool. The face and voice are familiar, but what about the man behind the mayor's chain of office? John Tory and his wife Barbara join me now for some getting to know you on the couch of truth.
Okay.
You ready?
Well, that sounds ominous.
No. No, look, Mr. Mayor, I get your agenda every day. I'm not out in the field as much anymore from your great staff, and I'm amazed how much you squeeze into a day outside the job. You are like the James Brown of municipal politics. You are just getting involved out there. I'll put the first question to you, Barbara. His weekends are more booked than most people's weekdays, all 5. When do you see this guy?
Well, first of all, what is a weekend? Like, if you look at my husband's schedule, you wouldn't be able to tell. But you know, he keeps the pedal to the metal on the weekends too. John just likes to be out with people and out and about. So
and that's clear.
That's what he loves to do.
And look,
I show up late to family functions, but I show up. You know, you just have to, I mean, these jobs are not for people who want to have what I'll call a sort of a normal life. They're just not. I mean, if you want to do it properly, you've got to be all over. It's a big city with a lot of people who really want to see you, and they appreciate the fact you come. And I find it very useful because I listen to people. So the one that's really patient is Barb and my kids and my grandchildren, our grandchildren, because they understand. But I show up to almost every family occasion, but it's not unusual that I would roll in a half an hour late from some. And by the way, I'm often festooned with garlands and things, and the grandchildren love that because I give them these flowered garlands and different things that I have when I show up.
Look, I know you're a sports fan, so you show up, but you don't have to show up at all these events. You frankly don't. No one would come down hard on you for not showing up to pretty much every cultural event that you're invited to. Obviously, you enjoy it. It's part
if you don't enjoy being with people, and if you don't find it helpful in doing your job to listen to people, then you shouldn't be in this line of work. And there are people who are in this line of work who don't, but that's the way it is. I mean, and the other thing is you have to understand, and Barb's been fantastic, as have the kids, that you know, it takes that toll on your family life. The time you spend at a lot of these events just is time you don't have to be somewhere else. And I get a bit of a going over from time to time about it being, you know, sometimes when there is an occasion that, but I mean, things like wedding anniversaries and birthdays, I try to not do anything bad on those days.
Public service is obviously a big part of your life. I was always told as a kid by my dad that the keys to a rich life are honest relationships and serving others. You can't go wrong if you live your life on that line. Public service is very important for you, but you're still a very private guy. I mean, you don't trot the family out there to all kinds of stuff. Is that by design, or is that because they're busier than you?
Look, Barb will speak for herself, but I mean, I will say that most of that, they don't want to be trotted out. I mean, they're people who have, Barb has her own life, and she has a life of public service too, but again, not played up in the sense that mine gets played up because whatever I'm doing is obviously more visible. And our children are very involved in public service in different ways in the community. I'm very proud of that. And we are both proud of that because they've seen an example we've both set. But, you know, but by the way, a couple of our kids are very involved in my campaign, but again, they're involved in a low profile way, but they're very passionate about it. So, you know, everybody's got to do their own thing. And I certainly don't want their lives to be, you know, to be adversely affected by what I've chosen to do. They face enough abuse about that when people know their name. So Barb has a different name than me, so she escapes most of it. They say, John Tory, you have something to do with him? And she goes, don't know the man, don't know him, never heard of him. Who's he?
Barbara Hackett, 40 years of marriage. What's the secret sauce?
Oh gosh, maybe my husband's busy schedule. No, that's not
well
true.
Played, Barbara.
Lovely. I don't know, just communication and you know, staying together, constant.
There's the wedding picture. Look at
Oh
those
my
kids.
goodness, look at that. Look
Look
at that.
Look at
Right.
the young love
it.
there.
Yeah.
That's it.
All
That was
smiles.
it. Young love.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk politics now. Doug Ford, affable guy. You've known him a lot longer than I have. Political foe also now, and has been for a while. I find the relationship between you guys Shakespearean, maybe Dickensian. Here's both two guys that were leaders of a party. One wanted to be mayor of Toronto, became premier. One wanted to be premier, became mayor of Toronto. You can't write this stuff.
You're right. So that also means we can't write the next chapters of it, other than for me to say that I'll work hard to work with him because that's my job. And I think he's of the same mind. I think that, but we'll see. I mean, I want to build transit. I want to address the affordable housing issue and so on. And I think he wants Toronto to be great. He's a Torontonian. But it is an unusual kind of relationship with an unusual history. And, you know, that's the way it is. And we'll just have to sort of try to make the best of it, because isn't that what you're supposed to do?
That's exactly
so we'll see how it goes.
Lawyer, broadcaster, CFL commissioner, executive board chair. Are any of these jobs, do you miss any of these jobs more than you love being mayor of Toronto?
I miss all of them, and I've been lucky in my life that I've loved every job that I've had. I think Barb would tell you that I've gone to work every morning, you know, enthused to go to work. And I mean, there are bad days you have at work, and no matter what your job is, people out there, they have jobs that are sometimes boring or sometimes aggravating, and mine have been the same, but I've loved them all, absolutely everyone. And that's a great way to be able to say you've enjoyed getting up. I wouldn't get up as early in the morning to go to work if I didn't think it was you know, it was fun and interesting.
Barbara Hackett, John Tory, thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks,
Thank you.
And tomorrow, don't forget,